Well, let's talk about censorship, manipulation. I was talking with Congresswoman Boebert, and I got to say I'm a bit pessimistic because on this show, for instance, we've had on only a few guests who are more liberal leaning. And we invite many on, but many just don't want to do it. The only ones who do either are up and coming and looking for an opportunity, which, we're trying to... We do want to have some of these individuals. I don't want to limit someone's ability to speak because they're not famous or anything like that. But we're trying to engage in debates with people who are influencing the debate itself, but they don't want to. And often what we find is people like squad members either are intentionally lying or don't know what they're talking about. An example I'll give is when AOC today said during the Twitter hearings that Boston's Children's Hospital was lied about by libs of TikTok, claimed that they were giving hysterectomies to children, but they actually list on their website reportedly that they offered hysterectomies to adolescents, if we want to be specific. And there was even a video where they described gender-affirming hysterectomies at a children's hospital. So either she knows what she's saying is not true, or she genuinely believes incorrect things.
Yeah.
If big tech is censoring conversations, and even us right now on this show are subject to those restrictions, how can we advance the country in a positive direction, come to real solutions, make people's lives better if we can't even discuss the problems?
No, that's the problem. And I think you've hit on the sort of the key thing here. The left today doesn't embrace the First Amendment. And that is literally something that has changed, in my judgment, in the last 10 to 15 years. It used to be the left would, get your best hold, make your best argument, full embrace of the First Amendment, your right to speak, and let's have the debate and see who wins. And then we move on to the next issue. That's the way it used to be, but not today. Today, the left says, if you don't agree with me, you're not allowed to talk. And if you try, we're going to call you racist. We're going to call you fascist. We're going to call you names. We're going to try to cancel you. And I've said this on the House floor when we were talking about the whole cancel culture phenomena. I said, don't think that they won't come for you. It's not just they're coming after conservatives or Republicans or libertarians. They're going to come for everybody. And that very week, if I remember right, that very week is the week they said the Dianne Feinstein Elementary School in San Francisco will no longer be named after Senator Feinstein. She wasn't good enough. Liberal icon, not good enough because of something she said 30, 40 years ago. That is the problem. And look, I got liberal friends. Dennis Kucinich is a friend of mine. And, he's way over here and he thinks Jordan's way over here. But we're friends and he believes in the First Amendment. That's the problem today is if you don't go along with the left, they try to cancel you. And their appetite, I think, knows no bounds, knows no end, and they will come for everyone. That's why we got to push back. And we got to push back on big tech so that we have that public square, that forum that is now the public square.
Are you winning?
I think we're making some progress finally. And of course, the biggest win was Elon Musk buying Twitter and showing us what was going on. As my good friend Thomas Massey said, he bought a crime scene. Cost him billions of dollars, but he bought a crime scene and laying out what happened there. That first they had their written policies that they enforced selectively. And then the closer they got to the election, the more they enforced them selectively. And then when their policies weren't good enough, they just had an ad hoc way of we're going to do whatever we want to do and censor whoever we want to censor.
Do you think the Twitter executives lied today in these hearings?
I think they didn't tell us everything because, one of the things just one question, I was just talking with Lauren when she asked about the hearing today too. And I said, the one question that sort of stuck on me, I asked, because I looked at, Baker's testimony, Jim Baker, who was deputy chief counsel. And before that, he was chief counsel at the FBI. And on the top of the second page of his thing, he says that he didn't improperly suppress any information that would be good for the public dialogue. Well, if you didn't improperly suppress, then you believe you properly suppressed something. What was it and when did it happen? And he wouldn't answer it. And he hid behind a privilege. But I want to know if that's right around the time that the Twitter files, when Musk bought Twitter and they're doing the Twitter files and they find out those are being filtered through Jim Baker, was he suppressing information then? I don't know. So that was one of the takeaways I had.
I wonder if there's potentially an FTC violation with Twitter in that before Elon Musk took over, and even now, there was this, before Elon Musk, when you're on your Twitter feed, there's little stars in the top right corner. You click it, it says switch between your home feed, which is algorithmic, and the latest tweets, which means that a user like me or any other person who signs up, if we select latest tweets, we expect to see the posts from individuals we follow in reverse chronological order.
Right.
But Twitter was manipulating that feed while advertising falsely what they were delivering to people.
Yes, and we asked about that today. So we asked, great point. We asked, okay, so when someone gets their account suspended or gets suspended from it, or their tweets being taken down, there's a notice of that. But if they're doing what they call other visibility filtering, like blacklisting someone, stopping them from trending, They don't know that. And it's happening. And I ask him, like, are you doing that on specific accounts? Is it driven by certain keywords that enforce that? How is that done? And they didn't really seem to, at least I didn't figure out how they were answering that. But the fact that they were doing that and people didn't know, then I said, did that happen to any government officials or elected officials? And he said he didn't know, but he thought it did. So this is Yoel Roth, who we asked these questions to. So again, that's something, and the examples in the Twitter files are Bongino and Charlie Kirk, that happened to them and they didn't know. Probably happened to you and you didn't know about it.
There are these apps you can use where you enter your name and it'll tell you the various filters that exist. But even Dave Rubin just mentioned Elon Musk just showed him new ones. They discovered new filters. But I guess, what I'm thinking is we often focus on the censorship aspect, which I think culturally and morally, those of us who care about real debate and logic and policy are shocked by.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious, how can Twitter, as a massive a company with 300 million plus users, lie about the product they're delivering? How can a corporation in America say, imagine this. Imagine if a company said, you come to me, here's a contract, you get a gallon of whole milk. Then they give you a gallon of 2%.
Yeah.
That sounds like they're falsely advertising what they're delivering. If Twitter says the reverse chronological feed delivers you reverse chronological posts, but then they're using shadow ban algorithms, and we know they're lying to their customers as to the product being delivered. How is that legal? How is that allowed?
Yeah, so one of the questions I asked too, that you made me think of this too, I asked this question, and I didn't fully understand it, but I asked if they were hard coding into any specific accounts to censor them. So they're like targeting that specific user. And it was interesting how Yoel Roth and I want to go back and look at the transcript to see exactly how he said it, because he really didn't answer that square that either. I agree. One of the things we want to do with legislation that we're planning on doing with Energy and Commerce Committee is anything they do to your account, they have to tell you. There has to be real transparency. There has to be a time frame. There has to be a due process so that you can correct it, figure out what it is, to have the debate and correct it within a specified amount of time. And then if they don't, then you should have some kind of cause of action because they're violating a contract that they have with you, their user, their customer. And the scary thing about what we've really learned, I think, from the Twitter files too, is all the things they're doing, Twitter, but why in the world is the FBI coming in and telling Twitter, hey, these accounts have problems, they violate your terms of service, Twitter? Like, well, what's the government telling Twitter these accounts violate Twitter's terms of service? Well, you got to be kidding me. And it wasn't because they were concerned about you being shadow banned or anything else. It was because they wanted those accounts taken down. That to me is the scariest part of all, which is come out in the Twitter files.
Do you think that those revelations that Twitter and Facebook had portals for government agencies to flag content, do you think that was partisan? That it was to help Democrats?
I do, because the way I did it my first round of question today was I asked, was the Hunter Biden's laptop story, did the government tell you it was fake? No. Did the government tell you it was hacked? No. And then I said, and did it violate your terms of service? And he said, no, it didn't, but you took it down anyway. Why'd you take it down? I think they took it down because for months they'd been meeting with, they'd been meeting with Twitter. They had asked Twitter if they wanted security clearances in 30 days prior to the election. They'd sent them all kinds of emails. And the heading on the email said Twitter folks, as if they were best buddies. And then they had the secret, what I call the super secret James Bond teleporter app that they could send messages to that would go away and disappear within a matter of weeks. So they do all this, and they're telling them be on the lookout for hack and leak operations. I think they played Twitter, and they understood, this is. And they were a receptive audience, like what I must say, 99% of them vote Democrat and give them Democrat. So that was the environment. They didn't need the specific email that said, take down the Hunter Biden laptop story. They were all primed to do it based on what the FBI had done for months and months, meeting after meeting, email after email. They were primed to do it, and that's what they did.
Someone chatted just now. I think it's an important point. They said that we're not the customers of big tech. We're the product. It's a misunderstanding, and I understand that point. The real customer, in a true sense of a transactional customer, is the advertisers who are buying access to data and access to an audience. But I think in a legal sense, we, the users of Twitter, are still customers.
Yeah.
There may not be a financial transaction, but there's a contract between us as to what we get. And in exchange for the...
And there are policies and terms of service. And it's a contract. It's a contractual agreement.
Yeah. So I guess, the challenges I suppose we're seeing now is, look, you guys may have gotten just a modicum of power by taking back a few extra seats in the House, giving you this majority. But is it enough to create a long-standing impact, to pass laws, to actually get something done? Are these hearings going to be enough to actually change things?
Well, I mean, look, we hope so, and all we can do is what we can do. And we got our first hearing tomorrow in the select committee. We hope this is a committee, a hearing that begins to frame it up. We're having Tulsi Gabbard as one of our witnesses. I think she'll be great. She's a true believer in the First Amendment. We have a couple great senators, Senator Grassley, Senator Johnson, who were investigated in some of the things they told us that the Democrats and these folks did to them and FBI did to them. So we think it'll be a good hearing. And then, of course, we have on the second panel, we have Professor Turley, whose op-ed out this week, I think, is really good because he used the term censorship by surrogate. And that's what we have now. You got the pressure from the government without explicitly telling them to do certain things. At least we haven't found that yet, but we may find that. But the pressure from the government and then the censorship from the tech platforms is real. And when you view it in this, in my mind, you view it in this bigger framework of what we've seen the last couple years. I always tell folks, every single right we enjoy under the First Amendment has been assaulted in the last couple of years. Every one. Your right to practice your faith, your right to petition the government, your right to assemble, freedom of press, freedom of speech being the most important. All of them have been attacked by the government. Many of them in relation to COVID and the COVID policies, but a host of other things too. And it's really frightening.
You know what was the craziest thing about all that too is even the Third Amendment got violated. Did you see that one?
All of them.
The Third Amendment, the one that no one knows because no one talks about, is that the government can't put soldiers in your house. Right? Because this is back in the Revolutionary period. And then when they did the eviction moratorium, effectively created a circumstance in which active duty soldiers who are renting property could not be evicted in violation of the Third Amendment. They violated so much of the Constitution, they woke up the Third. It's amazing and kind of scary at the same time.
I still remember, the government told you couldn't go to church. Crazy. I mean, the government said you couldn't come to your own capital that you pay for. I mean, we're here in Capitol Hill now, but you couldn't come to for like a year and a half. Nancy Pelosi wouldn't let you in your capital that you pay for to petition your member of Congress to redress your grievances. And the one I always remember is Jen Psaki standing at the White House in the press room. Now think about it. The White House is considered the center of freedom on the planet. Here's the press secretary to the United States, to the President of the United States in the press room, and she stands there at the podium and she says, most Americans now get their information from social media platforms. We, the Biden administration, are working with social media platforms to limit the information Americans can see. And it was live. And I'm like, did I just see that? This is the press secretary in the White House press briefing room saying she wants to limit the press. I mean, like this is scary. Where
they
the
cheer
left
for
wants
it.
To go, and they cheer it on.
This is what I was saying to Congresswoman Boebert a moment about an hour ago. The way I view this is with the manipulation of social media, the restriction of information to the American people, the Hunter Biden laptop story right before an election being a really prime example of this. They've created what I would describe as a hypoxic portion of the United States. That is, when your brain is deprived of oxygen, you don't know. You don't know. I don't know if you've ever seen these videos, but they're actually quite revealing. They'll put a person in a sealed chamber with a certain level of oxygen, and they'll slowly lower it while asking them to answer basic math questions. Mm-hmm. To the person, they're saying 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4, Schmerble Baba, it is 17, but in their mind, they're saying everything correctly.
Really?
Then they play back the video for them, and the people are like, what? I was speaking gibberish, yet your brain had no oxygen, so you were slowly shutting down. When they deprive half this country of information, and these people get their news and information from CNN or MSNBC, have both just espoused so much garbage, we have a situation where I would describe it as the left hemisphere of our American consciousness is deprived of oxygen, unaware that it's, for the past 7 or 8 years, been manipulated and just deprived of facts, but it's still voting. So how do we vote to correct a problem when we are facing people who don't know they're facing a problem and they're voting continually to increase that problem, if you know what I mean?
No, I get it. We do the best we can. You pray for this great country. You keep with a smile on your face like you guys do. You keep giving the facts and the truth.
Ramp up the ballot harvesting.
Yeah, and you play under the rules. Like the rules of the game are such that you play under those rules and you do it the best you can. and you play to win.
I have a solution. We could free the software code of large social networks right now. Instead of trying to break up the companies, force them once they get to a certain number of users, we treat it as a commons, and the software code is proliferated.
I think that's where I think Musk is thinking about doing that. I think that's where he may be headed.
We could use government force and say, it's like it's breaking up into monopoly, but I think that would work. And then you federate the networks, and like my version of Twitter and your version of Twitter can see each other. But if I want to ban you on my network, I can. I still have my right as a business owner to ban whoever I want. But
that would require a very large cultural shift, and it's difficult. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.